Welcome, folks. Really excited to have you here. We're going to give it just a couple minutes now that we have turned on the webinar. And I'm really excited about this particular webinar. I think that a lot of people have CRMs, not everybody, but the big question is, how do I really use that data? I've got a couple of different CRM type programs that I use here at Senior Living Foresight. And I'm pretty sure that I'm going to learn some stuff about how to use that data better as we work to serve both our sponsoring organizations like Yardi and you who are readers and watchers of this webinar. I want to do a little bit of housekeeping. Again, welcome. Glad you're here. I'm going to let Richard and Nicole do their own introductions here in a minute. We are recording this. We will send out a link to you today or tomorrow that has so you can watch this again if you'd like. We'll also put up the slide deck on SlideShare so that you can see that. One of the things that actually would be helpful, if you look down in the bottom, you'll see a place where you can do chat. You might have to click those 3 buttons, so I'm going to actually open mine up. And if you could just, in that chat there, maybe tell us where you're from. And if there's something you're passionate about, we'd love to hear about it. So there's a little chat window there, and maybe you're shy and you don't want to tell us that too. We will go about 45 minutes, and we will hold all questions until the end. And there you'll see a couple of different things. Hey, Ken, glad to have you here. So you can take the talking heads and you can move them around your screen, or you can shrink them down. The bar down at the bottom that has information, you can move around as well. Occupancy is king, Tampa Bay, Bakersfield, Nevada, Sun City, lots of California people here. So we are welcome, Tampa, Florida, so all across the country, Alameda, and we are just so glad you're here with us. Portland, Orange County, Michigan, South Carolina. Look at that, Lake Forest, awesome. Thank you so much. Let's get started here, and I'm going to actually go to presentation mode here. And Richard and Nicole. Richard, why don't you start and introduce yourself, and then Nicole.
Great, yeah. So thank you, Steve. My name is Richard Nix. I'm a Senior Director of Sales for the Senior Living team here at Yardi.
Great. And Nicole?
Very good. I won't be long, but just maybe a little bit more. So I'm from Prince Edward Island, Canada. I like to start off with that. I'm the token Canadian. Disney World brought me to the U.S. not to hang out, but not to hang out and play in the parks, but to work in marketing many years ago. Decided to stay in the United States of America. Taught at the University of Central Florida for many years, created a sales program there, and just most recently moved from the West Coast, lived in Seattle, Washington, where I worked in biotech for 8 years, and moved a year and a half ago, or not quite a year and a half ago, back to the East Coast to work with Thrive Senior Living. So I'm Nicole Moberg. I'm Chief Sales Officer for Thrive.
Cool. Well, I'm just really excited about this, and let's dig in. Richard, you want to talk us through the agenda here?
Yes, thanks, Steve. So we're going to start with the state of senior living for those who want to hear what we're hearing out there. Then we're going to talk about why a CRM is a must, and then go on to how to capture quality leads, and then we'll end at the finally with question and answers.
Terrific.
So the current state of senior living. Yep. So if we could advance to the next slide.
You bet.
Perfect. So we all know, and if you haven't heard, demand for senior housing is growing. I am actually the last of the baby boomers. I am born in 1963. So my wife actually was born in 64. She's the last year of the baby boom officially. And 10,000 people are turning age 65 every day. And by 2030, all boomers will be over the age of 65. So there's a lot of opportunity that we know of demand for senior housing in the future. So if we advance to the next slide.
I go too far?
I didn't see the advance, so I'm sorry. Yeah, yeah, you did. There was a slide on back. Sorry about that. Okay.
I think that's I think that's our transition.
Yes, there it is. Okay. So 75% of senior livings of consumers today are researching online. And the seniors aged 65 to 69 are twice as likely to go online than those aged 80 plus, which is interesting. When I started in the industry, I was talking to Steve and Nicole earlier in 2011. Folks back then said, our residents, our future residents will not even look online. That's not how we sell. And now you can know, obviously, folks are going online. And if you see that stat there about smartphone ownership among seniors grew 194% over the past 5 years, and 90% of seniors use email. We're totally talking a different market than several years ago. And I'd like to ask Nicole to comment on this.
Sure. I guess what I would add to that is the adult child, right? And specifically adult daughter is also a most likely prospect. And so something to think about, she's doing her research in different ways. And so my point is selling how people buy. So she tends to do her research at night, right? She's doing her research at 9 p.m. She's likely considering 8 to 10 communities. She's likely going to physically see 2 to 3. And if she can't reach us on a Saturday afternoon when she calls, she likely hangs up, doesn't leave a message, and calls someone else. So my point in sharing that is we have to be thinking about how people buy in this industry. And really the key is integrating your CRM with your Outlook, so that your concierge or your first impressions in your community can book tours or visits for us immediately and not have to wait. So I think that's the most important thing I would comment to on there, Rich.
Can I ask one question? One of the things I wonder about a lot is, are people able to actually find the kind of information they need when they go looking? Because people obviously have questions. We know all about senior living, but most consumers don't really know very much, and so trying to figure this out is really tough. Do you have any thoughts on that, either one of you?
I do. I feel that the information's at their fingertips, but it's so cluttered, Steve. I feel like, there's still just as much confusion, if not more, than ever. So although it's there and they can get it in seconds, there's still a lot of confusion when they come to us. And there's some really interesting data that shows that even now more than ever, it takes more contact or more touch points from lead to move in than it ever has. And so one could say that's competition. One could say it's sales skill. But I also think it has to do with how much clutter is in the industry. Yep. From an information standpoint.
Great.
Yeah, I would add also, I've seen a lot of our clients' community websites that are adding a lot of nice content on their sites about everything from how to speak to your parents about, your dad about taking his keys away. He shouldn't be driving the car. So that's a lot of good information that the industry is providing also.
Terrific. Next slide.
Yep. So here's the other thing about the demand for senior housing. The competition is growing, right? So the occupancy rate today is trending low at 87.8%. And there's a lot of housing that is being built. A lot of capital has been coming into the industry. And the old adage was, build it and they will come. Well, they have been built, but there's still a few more years before all of those boomers are ready for senior housing. And that competition is obviously driving why you have to really keep track of your referrals and, your prospects. And I'm sure Nicole can comment on that.
Sure. I think all of this data confirms that it's no longer a build it and they will come, right? Whether it's the industry itself, the talent level from a sales perspective, which I'm a huge proponent and believer of. I will share something. just maybe a little tweak, but I felt like it was super helpful, is we flipped the script on what a salesperson is. We changed it from marketer to sales. And I think it's setting the stage or setting the tone and what the role truly is. Marketing and sales are two very different functions, right? Two very different functions. Super important that they work together, but they're two different things. So we don't hide behind the fact that we're sales in the community. In the community, we're not marketers, we're salespeople. And I think originally I thought if we don't like to be called salespeople, why is that? I had to kind of ask ourselves. So we've dubbed it the hunter with a heart, which is someone that can connect with people and quite possibly one of the most difficult times of their lives, but be able to help people make decisions, because that's really what they want, and they won't necessarily tell you, right? So helping people make decisions, which is the hunter with a heart.
Yeah, Nicole, I really like that. I worry a lot that sales has gotten kind of this negative rap, and maybe it's more in our own head than it is in the part of the consumer, because in reality, a great salesperson is helping the person they're working with to find the right solution for their particular circumstance. And there's great joy as I buy things. If I'm working with a salesperson who's really trying to make sure I get what I need, what I want, what a joy. And so I think that we've got to approach it that way. So that really is refreshing to me.
Good. Very
Good.
Integrity-based selling.
Yep, absolutely.
Right. Great. Next slide, please.
Do you want me to speak to this, Rich?
Yes.
So
yeah, I have a delay.
This is an interesting data. So 60% of senior living marketers saw their budgets stagnate or decrease in 2018, and the average cost per lead $431, which is I think we all know higher than many industries. And then the next fact on here is inadequate budget is ranked the #1 barrier by senior living marketers. And so one thing I had mentioned earlier is the data also tells that it takes more contacts, right? So inquiries, contacts, leads to result in contacts to result in a move-in. And so we can speculate as to why that as an entirely different topic. But I will say, even with the information at our fingertips, there's still a lot of clutter. And so although the industry saw a market decrease or a decrease in marketing budget, we did go in a different direction, and I'll tell you how. We focused more on digital, pay-per-click, local SEO, updating Google My Business, Yelp, Bing, and also targeted social, right? So kind of meeting where people are. And back to Steve's point when we first started, we want to sell how people buy, so we meet them where we are. So we moved from an old school media-led strategy to more digital, clicked-focused landing pages where we capture information, and also moved from a community-level marketing strategy to creating more efficiencies by being more centralized. And then one thing that we've also done is from a local standpoint, we've just really been more targeting and been more customized in our media. So I wanted to share that.
So do you find your primary digital platform is Facebook or Pinterest?
It's Facebook.
Okay.
Facebook from a social advertising as well. And so we've found that to be the most successful platform for us across the board.
Terrific.
Right, and that allows you a great way to track everything, obviously, how that's performing for you. And thanks for taking the lead on this, Nicole. I'm in a hotel, I'm having delays, so when Steve hits the slide. But I think this might be a good time, Steve, to do a poll, because we have a poll question about marketing budgets. So the first poll is going to be how has your marketing budget changed this year?
Okay, so the poll is up. Looks like stayed the same, pretty balanced. It's like stayed the same is the predominant answer, and we are about there.
So stayed the same was the.
Is it? Can
That-
everyone?
Can everybody see that? Okay, we're gonna quit the poll, and there are the results.
Stayed the same. Larger.
Stay the same.
Not sure.
Yep. Great. Thank you very much.
Great.
Majority is
So-
stayed the same. If you have a larger, if you smaller, and if you're not sure. Okay.
The next topic we're going to go. I see I just see the poll results now. Okay.
Okay. So how do you stay competitive?
I did. Right. So we can go to the next slide. Nicole, have you seen the slide? I haven't. It's not showing up on mine yet.
So how do you stay competitive?
Right. So we can advance to the next one.
Okay. Okay. So customer relationship management software. How do you track this resident's journey, Rich?
Exactly. Yep. So, and it's funny, a lot of people ask me sometimes, well, what is a CRM? I've spoken to, I go to a lot of conferences, as you know, Steve, we see each other there.
Yeah.
And, folks come up to me from communities where they have one community, some have 4, some have 10. And a lot of the smaller ones sometimes say to me, I'll ask, how are you tracking your prospects? And they'll say, well, I'm old school. I track them on index cards. And I'm like, well, I think you might need a CRM. And again, it really should be a CRM that works for the industry and industry specific, because there's a lot of CRMs out there and some are not industry specific to senior. As Nicole can speak to, this journey with usually the adult child is much different than tracking sales for other industries. And being able to track, it's a long sales cycle, and being able to track all those interactions with maybe multiple members of the family, it's really important to have that all inside of a CRM. And you want to comment on that, Nicole? About activities and tracking it?
The next slide, Steve, if you want to advance, I think speaks to this probably the best. And so
Right.
These 3 points, improving organization, enhancing customer service, and increasing efficiency, I'll share some specific examples I think that could help on how we use our CRM to take action, if you will. So the first one is improve organization. We have what we call a sales success framework, and it has pillars. And one of our pillars is begin a week with a plan. And so in sales, I think you may have heard this before, our biggest competitor really is time and how we spend our time. And so to prepare for the upcoming week is really key. And so what we do, we actually use our CRM to go into the calendar function to determine what our plan is for the week. And that's really based on what we've created at Thrive is a follow-up cadence. And that's based on data, how many touch points it requires to move from lead to move-in. But we've built that into our CRM. And so it allows us to stay organized. It's, if you think about even 15 to 21 touch points for one lead, to stay organized with cue cards or little cards or pieces of paper. I'm trying to imagine that. I can't get myself there. So the data also tells us early and often is really key. And what I mean by that early and often is that when they reach out to us, we reach back fast, speed to lead, but also often on the upfront. And what we know is that that's what works. But we also have to be memorable. And so we've created that in our CRM. The other one, under enhance customer service and increase efficiencies, I think we've all heard you expect what you inspect, right? And so we do a lot of intentional visibility. And so what I mean by that is we have our sales team members do weekly reports. Now, I could go to our CRM and pull up their activity, but what I want them to do is have a lot of intentionality behind their activity to get to the results that they need. And so they also send in a weekly report. They go into the CRM, they pull that information that it's front and center. And we use that for a coaching tool. And so under enhanced customer service and increase efficiency, 50% of our move-ins still to this day go to the first responder. So think about that for a second. 50% of the move-ins go to the first responder. So if we wait, especially if it's an incoming lead, our prospect is already feeling overwhelmed with the calls that they're receiving. So speed to lead absolutely matters. And our CRM enables us to track that communication as it comes in and share that information at the local level with the actual communities themselves. And so if you're in a community, and let's say you have one community or one facility, if you will, and you have one salesperson, being able to track that immediately, the leader can then go in and also see that information. And it gives that visibility. So we use our CRM as well as a tool to communicate back and forth on the team. And so, for example, our presidents, which are an executive director, they do a 24-hour follow-up after a tour. They touch base with the prospect. And how do they know when the 24 hours comes up? The salesperson communicates that through the CRM. So I think those are some examples, Rich, that we have used that have worked for us.
Yep, and I would add, having all of that tracked in one central spot is just key to even allowing your executive team, let's say that sales counselor is out on PTO or something, that you can go in and see those interactions in case the adult daughter calls or the son. You know, there's a lot of contact points sometimes. And I know, dealing with my own mom, it was myself, my brother who was out of state, my sister, having that all in there and who's who, really, it's just almost impossible to imagine how you could do that without a CRM.
Yeah, and what if someone went on leave, right? We have someone right now, she just had a baby, she's gone now. I suppose she could have prepared in advance with all the contacts, but all we had to do was go in our CRM and it's there. She didn't have to put all this stuff together in preparation for that. We all had access to it at our fingertips.
So
yeah,
Nicole,
and one of the things, go ahead, Steve.
So Nicole, as you use your CRM, and it's always bad to ask a question you didn't prep for in advance, but here we go. Do you have a bunch of pre-canned materials or resources? So do you have like an email sequence that goes out when a lead goes into your CRM to your prospects? And are they different depending on where they are in the what type of family member they are, as a for instance?
A great question. So we built a follow-up playlist, and it's based on the data, which is the 15 contact points that it takes. It's not time bound, but early and often. So day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, there's certain things that the sales representatives do. One is an email. And to answer your question, yes. So we have created what we call email templates. The beauty of those templates, though, they're built into our CRM, but we can also customize them. So it doesn't feel like it's the same email going to every single person. It's customized to that. So there's a general gist of it, and then we cater it to the actual person. We mention their mom or dad's name. We mention a few things that we saw, but then we also add in, we have that consistency as well. So personalized and consistent is really the two things that are super important to us. Hope that answered your question.
Are you using video at all in all of this?
Yeah, we do what we call core videos because different methods of communication are really very important to sort through that clutter, right? To be memorable and really stand out. We've found that it's been a successful tool for us. And so we do texting, we do video, we do email, and not just from one person. It also comes from the rest of the leadership team in the communities. The salesperson owns that communication, but we get the rest of the leadership team involved so that the prospect, the adult daughter, adult son, or future resident feels like they're already starting to be connected with the rest of the community.
So one more question for you, Nicole, and so let's assume, I assume that while your goal is to be the first responder each and every time, that sometimes that doesn't happen and that you end up the second or third in the queue. What do you do to recover, to regain the advantage?
So we've had a blessing, I will say, I always say rising tides lift all boats. And so we want to increase leads on every category. One of those is any incoming leads. And that's a paid referral source. That's a place for mom, that's caring.com. That's coming in digitally on our Facebook. We identified a gap, at least where I work, right? And we realized that if we're going to do this, we need to do it right. So we brought on one inside salesperson. That inside salesperson represents all 20 of our communities. And so when the lead comes in fact, she responds. So our goal is seconds, but our average is right around 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. And so there are times though where she doesn't get to it because she may be on working another lead. And so in cases like that, how does she? I'll say it's person related. She can connect with people deeply over the phone. And so it's really, the goal is to get someone to tour, right? And so that's what she's especially talented at. She doesn't have scripts. We've trained her up to be able to think on the fly and have that intentionality in our conversations. But if we have lost the opportunity, we also partner with those sources. A Place for Mom, we pay for those leads. And so we work with the reps. We ask them why we lost the lead, help us with it. What do you know about it? Not just the email that we get, but we dig deeper and form those relationships at a local level.
Terrific. Great.
So, Steve, I think this is a good time for our second poll question.
Okay.
How helpful is your CRM to your business?
Let's see. Here we go. We'll go at about 30 seconds. So how helpful is your CRM to your business? Extremely helpful, mostly, some not helpful. And about 10% of you do not have them. We'll let the poll continue to go for another couple of seconds here. Couple more responses here. Okay, let's take a look at what we've got.
Extremely, that's good.
Extremely helpful.
Extremely
That's
helpful
good.
and helpful. So that's pretty good.
That's great.
Good. That's great.
Okay.
Perfect. We can go to the next slide.
Good. Do you want me to kick this one off, Richard, or do you want to do a general overview first?
Yeah, just a quick overview. So really how a CRM, how it works, right? So it's technology really to oversee the interactions with the prospects and clients. And it's really about improving the relationship, right? This is all built on trust. And you're going to do that over several months. It could be years before someone moves in. It depends how early they start. And you want to capture that data across various channels, like Nicole mentioned, marketing campaigns, websites. You know, you want to phone calls in. Maybe you've done a marketing event at the community, and also just track this and give your team visibility so you can organize those leads and streamline your marketing efforts and to test, see what's working. So I'll throw it back to you, Nicole.
Sure. So as I shared earlier, we do a weekly activity tracking for visibility and coaching, and part of that is lead scoring. So under that little technology icon, if you will, we use a simplified lead classification system. I think a lot of us use these, but we wanted to take the emotion out of it. I think sometimes salespeople, we can get emotional and we think, oh, that's a hot lead, or this is going to work, or so we use a very simplified classification system, A, B, C, and D, and each of them have a % probability of that lead becoming a move-in. And so, for example, A is 75%. It allows us to speak the same language in our company, and it allows us to speak the same language amongst the team, to use facts, not feelings. There's lots of feelings. We're in the industry for feelings, but when it comes to trying to figure out what the pipeline is and what to expect for move-ins, we do take out the emotion and use facts. So it'll help us to predict where we're headed for any given month. And this is customized in our CRM. And I saw that someone in the chat asked if does Thrive use Yardi? We do use Yardi. And so the second one is data. So it says data on the slide. And so it says capture qualitative and quantitative data across various channels. So we capture, a lot of data we capture is quantitative. And so we capture new leads. We capture lead source. Where did it come from? A drive-by, or did it come from a sign, or did it come from a digital platform? We look at lead to tour, right? Just like a lot of us do, lead to tour and tour to move-in. But we also track quantitative information. I want to give you a couple examples of that quantitative information that we track, or the qualitative, information we track. One is so that we encourage deep knowing with our prospects. We track the story of the resident. And that's as a prospect. That's not as a resident. Because we believe that the individuals, the families, the residents, they want to feel known. And so we have an acronym we created, and it's built into our CRM. And so the prospects are collecting that information, and they're entering it into the CRM. And what that does, we can't possibly remember all that information, right, if we have lots of leads come in. And so that does help us with the relationship. It helps us with the follow-up. And Steve, you had mentioned earlier, the types of follow-up. Knowing the resident or the future resident, the prospect really well by collecting that qualitative information really helps us build that relationship. On location, aggregated data set paints a holistic view to help make strategic decisions. Reporting functions, the one I use, it's interestingly enough, the one I use probably the most is lead sources. I pull it almost daily. And so I'm tracking how many leads come in, but I'm also tracking where they come from. If we, for example, did a major digital campaign and we're not seeing an uptick, there's a gap. We have to find out why. And so pulling that reporting as much as you want. I don't want to have to call the sales reps. That's going to drive them crazy. I want them to focus on what they're good at, right? Which is connecting with people, doing what they love, doing more good. That's why we do what we do. So if I'm constantly asking them for that, they're going to be like, you're micromanaging me. So I go on our CRM and I access that information. If there's issues, concern, or I want clarification, or I want to help coach them in a certain area, that's when I'll reach out to them and ask them for that information. But I don't want to have to do that all the time. And then under visibility, teams can gain more organized, streamlined information. Great example. I took just this morning, I met with our marketing team, and we were looking at a particular community, and we were noticing that the lead generation was actually a little low. And so we went into our CRM, we pulled up a report to break it down between assisted living, memory care, and independent living. And what we found is that this month, the leads weren't necessarily dropped as a whole, although they were a little bit, but it was more on the memory care side. And so now we have to kind of pivot and think about how can we make changes from a digital strategy today that can even make an impact really soon, right? Because we're seeing that gap. So it's been very helpful for us to identify things on the spot and to give us that visibility.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I really like about that, Nicole, is that with digital, right, if you have a gap there, you can make a change in minutes or hours, or change your Facebook ads or your target audience, or so many things you can do, which you can't do with mail and this sort of old print stuff. So that's really cool.
Absolutely. I think you can advance.
One thing I'd like Nicole maybe to talk about too is, and I don't know if we actually touched on it a little bit, but not just a CRM, whatever CRM you use, it's not just tracking prospects and residents, but also your referral sources, right, Nicole?
Good point.
Out in the community.
Good point. Yeah. So that data, so I should just get back. So go into the data portion, the qualitative. We track all of our referral partners. And so we have sourcing partners. We have a sourcing partner playlist as well. How do you build that relationship? What questions do you ask? Is it reciprocal, right? We're big on reciprocity, creating value for them as well. We track all of that, Rich. That's a really good point. And that's more on the qualitative side, but we track all of that, all those partners. So going back to the example we used earlier, when our salesperson was on medical leave, we didn't have to have her put all this stuff together before she left. We had it right in our CRM.
right? And the final thing I'll say about how it works too is make sure your CRM, whatever it is, has the ability to set automated workflows, right? And I think we have another slide on that coming up, but that's just a key point. Automated workflows that are basically if you have a tour scheduled today and that person calls up and cancels, the reaction automatically should set a call out the next day or the day after so the salesperson does not forget about it.
Right.
Yep.
So,
Well, it's one of the questions, and I think this is pretty interesting. We probably can't really do it, but one of the questions is will there be training on setting up emails through CRMs? I know we don't have time to do that today, but that could actually be a pretty interesting thing to do a webinar or maybe even some sort of an interactive class on in the future. So that's a great question.
okay, that is a great question. Okay, we can go to the next slide.
Okay. Okay, so 7 ways a CRM solution can improve your acquisition.
So I think, you know what, Nicole, I think I'll let you speak this one because I have a funny feeling you have a comment on every one of them, and I'm sure people want to hear it from you on the feet on the street more than from me.
Sure. So I'll try to use examples of application to explain these. I think that's how my mind works. So I look at supercharged marketing and I'm like, what do I think of? I think of some of those email templates and the verbiage that we create. And by the way, we created those with those closest to the work. And so we went to the sales team and said, you all have talent in different areas. Some of you are doing really good with this. So we brought them in, a whole day spent and created those. We absolutely use those closest to the work, and they like to be involved in that. So supercharger marketing, that is one, creating those email templates that are most likely to get responses. They're built into our CRM. We can track the emails that they send. And again, they can personalize it, and also it makes it consistent. On the shortened lead response time, leads that are, so here's an example with our CRM, a place for, I'm going to use a place for mom because we all know what that is. You can integrate with that. And so what happens is it can capture duplicates. And so if you already have that lead in your system, it will flag it and you can deny it. In other words, you don't want necessarily that lead from a place for mom because you already have that lead in the system. And so that helps from a time perspective as well. And it helps shorten the lead response time. I will tell you, just from the inside sales lead role that we created, we have increased our success rate over 53% on leads and tours. Again, she's trying to respond in seconds, but it ends up being right around 30 minutes. The centralized data, I used a real example from this morning and how we did that. I mean, the data's there. We don't have to wait and figure out what's going on. We can go right to the source, pull up the report. In fact, there's so many types of reports. Sometimes I think it's like, what is the most important reports you should use? And so it's really narrowing it down and taking all the information and making it suitable or customized for your community.
So what are your favorite reports?
My favorite reports are, there's a community insight report, and that shows move-ins, move-outs. The report I pulled this morning, it's in analytics. It breaks it down by assisted living and memory care. It also breaks it down by our lead categories that we talked about earlier, the A's, B's, C's, and D's, and all the leads that come in, where they classified, and also what source type it is. Of course, we do it to budget, right? And so we compare how we did to budget, and then we track, every single month, we do a look back to move forward. How did we do this month? Where did we fall short? What are the goals we need to set for the following month? And that's hand in hand with the ED or the president of the community and the sales team member. So those are my favorite ones. I don't know why it's lead source, but I just think it's super important to determine where your leads are coming from.
Yep.
Optimized contact strategy is the fourth bullet. First, I talked about a place for mom. I'm having that integration with those leads, but we've built our follow-up cadence, right? It's designed to bring value at every single contact. So what we said earlier, it could be a video. It could be a video of someone in dining services, inviting them for a lunch. And that's where the creativity comes in, and the freedom within a framework that we believe in at Thrive also comes into play. We're not telling you exactly what you have to do, but we're giving you a framework to work within that correlates or corresponds with our CRM. We call it Party with Yardi, actually. We had to get creative with it. Not everyone loves CRM, but we call it Party with Yardi. So every day, the sales team knows that they enter all their leads and their information into Yardi. I mean, you got to make it fun. And so they do time blocking every day. And so what Party with Yardi really is entering the information, but time blocking, right? So protecting, guarding your time. The whole community knows that during this hours of, let's say, 9 to 10:30, you are following up on prospects. You're in Yardi, following up on your next step. One thing too that I love about our choice with Yardi, and I know we don't want to sell a CRM, any particular CRM, but what I did appreciate was that you couldn't move on to the next step. Meaning if you entered in what you did with the lead, you could not close it out until you put in a next step. I love that. I mean, I think that every CRM, and maybe many do, but that was a core requirement for me at least, because you always need a next step. Strengthening the client relationships, automating communication, right? The calendar function does serve us well, and along with our email templates. And it could be, the communication also could be a resident testimonial. I mean, there's just so many different tools that you can use, and tracking them is really super important. The actual workflows themselves and pulling reports, you can get them automated. And so that, to speak to Rich's point earlier, that lead source report, I just go in and pull it, but I can have that sent to me automatically on a regular cadence. And in fact, one of the external marketing partners that we have, we do send one to them on a regular cadence. So they also know where we're falling short, potentially on leads or even conversion rates. Any other thoughts there, Rich?
No, I think you hit them all. It was definitely on all the points you hit well. So thank you.
So, I mean, the title of this is 7 Ways a CRM Can Improve Acquisition. I will share with you that we have actually, there's a lot of things we've incorporated, but I will say that our lead to tour and our tour to move in, we have increased. I mean, our lead to tour, we've increased almost 20%, and our tour to move in, we've increased by 10%. So a lot of things that we've incorporated into our system, and a lot of other training activities that we've done, but this has certainly been a fantastic tool for us.
Cool.
Perfect. So the next slide actually is some interesting facts on the industry, and one that I'd like to point out is the 64% of online buyers. That's the percentage of online buyers that believe the first company to call back has the advantage. So to your point earlier, Nicole, how important you're getting back fast is key. And again, you can only do that with a CRM to track that. And, you know, you want to make sure someone owns that lead and is taking it to the next step. Also, the number of systems, different systems that the average small business use to house data. Again, this is a point I think we need to really drive home, is that you want your CRM, no matter what CRM you use, to actually do as many of the functions as you need as possible. Because, again, does it do marketing campaigns for you? Does it track, your lead sources and all of that? That's important. Track your referral sources. If you're doing that in disparate systems, it's going to be hard to pull all that data together, and especially for someone at Nicole's level to be able to drill down and see what she needs to see if things are getting taken care of. Any comments on that, Nicole?
I think just one other interesting fact, I mean, I don't think it's a shocker to anyone, but about 70% plus, and depending on what you read, sometimes it says 80%, of consumers research their options online, and they read reviews. They read our reviews. They read our reviews, whether we like it or not. And it could be a disgruntled employee, or we call them team members, but reviews also matter. And so I guess at the end of the day, what that means is the consumer journey starts online. And so it's meeting them where they're at and being there. Are you there? Asking yourself, are you there where they are at and where they're learning about the industry at the very, very beginning, so that you are a part of that journey as it progresses.
Yep.
Right. Perfect. So
Great.
Steve, I think this is a good time, and I'm looking at the time. We're getting close.
Yep.
So we have only a few more slides But I think it's a good time maybe for our last poll question.
You bet.
Because we're talking about how quickly does your team respond to new inquiries?
This is an interesting question to ask. The responses are coming in. It is a okay, it looks like we've got a couple more coming in still here. I think that is about it. So we will end the polling and let you see the results. And
Within
so
24 hours.
You've got 12% within 10 minutes, 25% within 30 minutes, and then it kind of goes down there. So that's a little bit sort of consistent with about what you were talking about, Nicole, I think. So.
Yeah.
I would have loved to see the answer to this poll 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, isn't that the truth?
Yeah. So this is great. Yeah. So it's good.
That's really good. Really, really good.
Okay.
Okay. So next slide. What can your CRM do for you? And again, a lot of these we've discussed already. You know, tracking success, test your messaging, personalize your approach. Nicole, you spoke a lot to that. And increase your speed to lead, and automate your tasks. So anything you want to add on this, Nicole?
I think one thing I would just add, I mentioned earlier, and I don't want to be repetitive, I just want to dig a little bit deeper into this one, which is kind of the idea of looking back to move forward. So look at back past performance so that you can plan your next month or quarter. One simple thing that we look at, and that is unpaid referrals, right? And so if we have sourcing and referral partners and we see a dip in a given month and we go in there and we find it, we take action. And so it's using that information. It's great to have it. If you don't do anything with it, it doesn't do anything for you. And so we actually will then call the referral partner and find out what's going on, right? And so that action or that activity has led to some uncomfortable conversations, but have really helped in so many ways. I mean, just one last month, that's why this is fresh in my mind. It was a referral partner that had referred us for so long, and it went from 10 to 0. And we called them and it was a complete misunderstanding, but it just helped build that relationship and that bridge. And I don't know if we didn't have a CRM, I don't know, we might have caught it, but I think just having the black and white data right in front of us really does give that visibility and ensures that you don't let things fall through the cracks. It helps you with your future strategy.
I think, Nicole, that's so important. One of the things that I worry about a lot is that, and not just with the CRM, but probably the CRM is where it's most critical, is you've got all this data, but you've actually got to do things with it rather than just say, oh, that's interesting, or we're doing great, or we've got, I don't know what to do here because things are going down. And so what I really liked about that story is that you discovered you had a problem and you went in, you dug in and used it as a tool. Ultimately, it sounds like to strengthen a relationship, which is wonderful.
Absolutely. And I have to comment, Libby had wrote a comment here. She has here, we do so many mystery shops where it takes several days for communities to call back. I have to echo that. I wasn't going to share it, but we did this recently in one of our markets. And it was one of our salesperson's moms that did it. It took 7 days for her to get a follow-up. We were shocked. I mean, 7 days. We spend all this money and time thinking, how can we get more leads when we're not even cultivating the ones that we have? And so that was a huge aha moment for me. I'm like, is this really happening? We wait 7 days to. So Libby, thanks for sharing that. It is true. It does happen still.
Great. So if we go to the next slide, so just a few more interesting facts for the industry. And again, there's 21, there's the sales touches, and, interesting. Nicole, you want to comment on any of these?
I think the one in the middle is what's key, Rich. So follow-ups have 44% higher conversion rate. You know, you could let the pendulum swing. You could go from not doing a CRM and doing a CRM and having everything scripted and everything laid out for the sales team. That's too much. You lose the talent. You lose the creativity. So it's key. I believe it's key to have a consistent theme and show them the way that things work, but also allow their creativity to shine and being inserted into your frameworks. And so I'm a huge proponent of people don't want to be communicated the same way, with the same way, right? So every prospect, you don't send this email. You personalize it, but the company, the senior living company, gives them the tools to be successful and be able to personalize that. So I think of all of these, that's one of the most important. The 15 sales touches, it's actually increased in 2018 as high as 21, depending on the data that you read. And again, that's 40%. That's 40% difference between 2017 and 2018, where the amount of touches that are required has increased. So there's something there to say for that. We've got to do better. We've got to be more creative. We've got to sort through the clutter. We have to have a structure and backed by data to move forward. And look, I've talked a lot about data. That's not even our number one focus. I mean, we focus on the person, right? It's about the person and their personal and professional goals. But when it comes to being successful as a sales organization within senior living, I think it's really important to track what's important. At the end of the day, we have an economic engine. We're not in the industry to get numbers, but we're in it to do more good, and we do that through 100% occupancy with a wait list.
So Nicole, where are you finding? I just had a question come in. I'm actually really fascinated by this text messaging. Where do you find that somebody saying they have the text messaging is the preferred contact, and how does that fit into Yardi, Richard?
The preferred message.
I can speak.
Yeah, you can speak to that, Rich.
Yeah, so basically, that's becoming more popular. We have an add-on product to our CRM that allows, which we call call automation. So it allows the actual tracking numbers, and that includes texting, so that the sales counselors can see that and communicate from the CRM into the texting, because that is a big preferred method of communication, and it's quick response.
Yep.
So that's all tracked in CRM also.
Great.
And I think the last slide is coming up, and then we could do questions. It's just a quote from another actual client actually in Pennsylvania, Gino. So he's using our CRM also. And with that, I think the next slide, Steve, is the last one. It's just a thank you, and we're ready for questions.
Great. So we sort of addressed a couple of questions along the way. One of the sort of a comment about texting is it apparently doesn't count as a call out with text.
It is
texting count as it is, yeah.
Yeah, it
should be counted as a call out.
Okay.
Texting, actually, there's some really good data on texting. I don't want to let our secret out, but texting is right now, it's the way to go. And it's not, and that's going to change. When everyone starts texting, it's not going to be unique anymore, but texting, people respond to text. It's more personable, right?
Yeah, I just think you let the cat out of the bag there.
I did, I know. Yeah. Well, they're going to have to watch this webinar.
Yeah. So another question that came in was, can Yardi add a tour follow-up activities in the Dropbox?
It requires it, at least on our end, it's required.
Oh, yeah, okay. You can make any of our fields required. So, and that would be one of them if you choose to make it. Yep, and Nicole did make that required.
Great. Great. And I think, and this last chance for questions or comments. And if we don't have any, we're gonna say thank you very much. And that's it.
It was a pleasure.
Great. Wait. Hold on. I got two more questions.
Oh, one more.
Look at that.
Okay.
So what are your top ways to differentiate yourself in the market?
Mm-hmm. Good question. You want me to take that, Rich? Or
yep.
So
yeah, I think that's for you, yeah.
Yeah, ours is certainly our messaging. And so I think a lot of, I don't know, if you have just research Thrive, we don't focus on great care. How does that sit with you? Not good, but the industry focuses on great care. We think that's setting the bar too low. So we believe that great care is a byproduct of a great relationship. deep knowing. And so that's the one way we set ourselves apart right from the beginning. So from the time the lead comes in, we build a deep relationship, but that's also our focus of our messaging. And so that's our core way of setting ourselves apart, because there's a lot of sameness. We're in a sea of sameness. Whether we want to believe it or not, there's a lot of the same things you hear, the same pictures, images. You go to different websites for assisted living, and we want to think that we're unique, but the buyer sees a lot of sameness. And so unless they have a connection in the industry or a connection with a particular senior living company, they see a lot of the same. So that is one way. I could go on and on, but that's the main way, our messaging.
Great. So one more question for you. Is Yardi going to integrate with marketing software tools such as HubSpot or Marketo?
Yeah, so we actually have, if you go to yardi.com/services/interfaces, I think we have over 250 interfaces, partners. And basically there's a team that works with them. Obviously people come up a lot at trade shows, vendors say, hey, we integrate with you? And obviously we have to do our due diligence and make sure there's a need for it. And also it's driven by the client, and make sure that, we go through the process, because every time they make a change, we'd have to make a change. And we just, with hacking and all that, we have to be very careful. But as far as those marketings, I'm not sure. I know we have talked to a few in the past. I just don't know where they are. We have an interfaces team. So if you want, they can email me separately. Yep.
Perfect. Great. Well, guys, thank you very much. This was really cool. Learned a ton. And we will make this recording available to people, and we'll send out the poll responses and some of those things as well. So we'll send you a bunch of stuff. Nicole, Richard, thanks again. Great conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Nicole. Thanks, Steve, and everyone who joined.
Bye.
Have a good day.